You know how it is in Chicago, right? That city where neighborhoods feel like little worlds unto themselves, full of history and hustle, but also those invisible lines that keep people apart. Luca Santoro knew all about those lines. He was the kind of guy who ran things in the shadows, head of what folks whispered was the last real remnant of the old Chicago outfit, that Italian mob legacy from the days of Capone. But to his mom, Isabella, he was just Luca, the son who showed up every Thursday night without fail to take her out for dinner. It started after his dad got taken out in a deal gone bad 10 years back. One of those hits that made the papers but never got solved. Isabella had looked at him across the kitchen table that night, her eyes all empty, and said, "Luca, I can't even remember what it's like to feel alive anymore." So he made it his mission. Every week. No excuses. Even if it meant dodging meetings with his crew or ignoring the stares from people who knew the Santoro name, meant trouble. That particular Thursday, Luca picked a spot in Little Village, you know, that vibrant Mexican neighborhood on the southwest side, the one they call La Vilita, or the Mexico of the Midwest. It's got that massive arch over 26th Street welcoming you in, murals everywhere splashing colors like a street festival that never ends, and the air always smells like fresh tortillas and carne asada from spots like Nuevo Leon or Mi Tierra. Luca figured it'd be a change of pace from their usual Italian joints in the old neighborhood. Isabella had roots back in Sicily, but she'd always had this soft spot for Mexican food. Reminded her of the bold flavors from home, she said. Plus, it was low-key. Tourists didn't flood it like Pilsen next door, and his guys could keep an eye without drawing heat. They settled into a booth at this little hole in the wall called El Jardín, the kind of place with plastic tablecloths, mariachi music humming low from a speaker, and walls covered in faded photos of Guadalajara. Isabella, in her simple black dress she'd worn forever, her gray hair pinned up like she was still that young bride who'd crossed the ocean for love, scanned the menu with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. Luca was about to crack a joke about her always picking the same thing, enchiladas verdes, when their waitress appeared. "Buenas noches," she said, her voice warm but steady, notepad in hand. But it wasn't the greeting that hit Luca. It was when Isabella murmured something in Spanish about the specials. And the waitress, this young woman with olive skin, dark curls tied back, and eyes that had that fierce spark, switched right into fluent Spanish like it was nothing. "Sí, señora, el mole poblano es casero hoy con receta de mi abuela de Puebla. De mí?" Isabella's menu dropped a bit, her face lighting up like Luca hadn't seen in years. No one spoke Spanish to his mom anymore. Back in Sicily, she'd picked it up from Spanish neighbors during the war years. But here in Chicago? Forget it. The Italian community had shrunk, her old friends scattered or gone, and English had swallowed everything. But this waitress, Elena Vargas, that's what her name tag said, was chatting away like they were at a market in Mexico City, asking about Isabella's accent, and sharing a laugh over how American cheese ruins everything. Luca looked up from his menu, and damn if his chest didn't tighten a little. Elena was maybe 24, tops, petite, 5'4" in her sensible black sneakers, wearing the standard uniform of black pants and a white shirt with an apron that had a little stain from what looked like salsa. Nothing flashy, but when she spoke Spanish, her whole posture changed, hands gesturing lively, smile genuine, like she was dancing through the words. Mixed heritage. Luca guessed right away. That unique beauty from her mom's side out of Mexico City and her dad's American roots. Probably from some Midwest town. She was the kind of person who blended in until she didn't. And right now, she was making his mom look alive again, leaning forward, hands waving as she described a cousin in Sicily who'd love Puebla-style cooking. But then Elena turned to him for his order, and Luca saw it, that flicker in her eyes. "Mr. Santoro," she said carefully, switching to English with a slight accent that rolled soft on the R's. Everyone in Chicago knew the name, especially in neighborhoods like this where whispers about the outfit still lingered. The stereotypes hit hard, violent, untouchable, the kind of guy who'd drag you into trouble just by association. Her step back was subtle, but there, fear masked behind a professional nod. Luca was used to it. Hell, it came with the territory. But seeing it from her stung more than usual. Just Luca, he corrected gently, keeping his tone easy, like he was any regular Joe. And thanks for making my mom smile. That doesn't happen often enough these days. Elena nodded, but her smile tightened. Your mom's wonderful. It's nice to chat in Spanish. Reminds me of home. She took their orders, Isabella's usual enchiladas, Luca's tacos al pastor without much thought. And as she walked away, Luca caught something. The way she moved, that subtle sway in her hips, like she was hearing a rhythm no one else could. It reminded him of those stories his mom used to tell about folk dances back in Europe, but twisted with something Mexican. Maybe like the jarabe tapatio he'd seen at a Cinco de Mayo festival once in the Loop, where Mexican-American families turned the streets into a whirlwind of color and stomps. Little did he know, Elena had that in her blood. Her grandma had been a dancer in Puebla, teaching her the steps of ballet folklorico as a kid. Those intricate moves that blended indigenous rhythms with Spanish flair. But here, in Chicago's grind, she was just the waitress scraping by, saving every tip for dance classes in the evenings, dreaming of auditioning for a professional troupe in New York or LA. No one saw that talent. They saw the girl from the barrio, undervalued because of her working class roots, her mixed background that didn't fit neatly anywhere. Isabella turned to him after Elena left, her eyes misty. Luca, that girl, she spoke to me like I'm still back home, not like some old lady who's forgotten her own tongue. It cracked something in him, that quiet pain his mom carried, 40 years in America, sacrificing for the family business that turned dark after his dad's choices. I know, Ma, it's been too long, but inside Luca was reeling. He came here for a meal, not this pull toward a woman who saw him as danger incarnate. And Elena? She felt it too, that tension, the way his presence filled the room like a storm cloud, back in the kitchen, plating their food. She whispered to herself, Stay away, Elena. Guys like that, they ruin dreams. But damn if his mom's joy didn't tug at her, reminding her of her own abuelita's stories about crossing the border for a better life, only to face the same walls of judgment. Little Village was full of folks like her, hustling, overlooked, but with fire inside. And Luca, for all his power, was just as trapped by the stereotypes that painted him as the villain. I mean, come on, who would have thought a simple dinner could stir up all this? But that's Chicago for you, cultures crashing, secrets simmering, and one conversation changing everything in ways you never see coming. After that first dinner at El Jardín, things didn't just go back to normal for Luca. Nah, that pull he felt stuck with him like a bad habit you can't shake. He'd drop his mom off at her little apartment in the old Italian neighborhood, kiss her cheek, and head back to his world of dimly lit meetings in back rooms of pizzerias on Taylor Street, where guys like him made deals that kept the family business humming. But his mind kept drifting back to Elena, that waitress with the quiet fire in her eyes. He told himself it was nothing, just appreciation for how she'd lit up Isabella's face. But deep down, he knew better. Guys like Luca didn't get soft spots. They got targets on their backs. Still, a week later, he found himself walking into the restaurant alone, no mom in tow, scanning the room for her. It was a Tuesday night. Slow crowd, mostly locals grabbing tacos after work. The kind of blue-collar folks from the factories or construction sites around 26th Street who reminded him of his own dad's early days hustling before things turned dark. Elena spotted him right away as the hostess led him to a table in her section. Her stomach did that flip it always did around guys who screamed trouble. You know, the red flag on legs vibe her mom had warned her about since she was a teen in Medford, that suburb outside Boston where her family had settled after crossing from Mexico. Wait, no. That was the old story. Elena's life was Chicago now. But the warning stuck. She approached with her notepad, keeping it professional, but inside she was a mess of caution and curiosity. Mr. Santoro, Luca, right? No, Senora Isabella tonight, she asked, her voice steady even though her heart was pounding. Luca looked up, giving her that gentle smile that didn't match the rumors. She's got a church thing, some ladies group playing bingo or whatever. Figured I'd come anyway. The food here's too good to skip. Elena nodded, jotting down his order for a birra burrito, but she caught him watching her a beat too long. Anything else? She added, trying to keep it light. As the night wore on, Elena moved through her shift like she always did, calm on the outside, a storm inside. After closing, she'd head to the community center a few blocks away. This rundown spot run by the Mexican Cultural Center, where she practiced her folklorico dances in secret, the kind with those swirling skirts and stomping heels that made her feel connected to her abuelita's stories from Puebla. She'd been saving every tip, stuffing cash into an old coffee can under her bed in her tiny apartment shared with 2 roommates, all for that dance scholarship audition in New York next year. It was her ticket out, her American dream twist. Prove she was more than just the mixed girl waitress from the barrio. Show the world her talent that blended her mom's Mexican rhythms with her dad's Midwestern grit. But tonight, whispers from the kitchen crew hit her hard. Girl, you serving that Santoro guy again? Stay clear. Those outfit types, they'll drag you down faster than you can say adios. It was Maria, her coworker, a tough as nails mom from Pilsen who'd seen too many bad endings. Elena swallowed the lump in her throat, forcing a shrug. He's just a customer. Maria pays well, tips big. But inside, it stung. That assumption she was naive, that her kindness to Isabella was some kind of trap. She fought back tears in the bathroom mirror, whispering to herself, "You got this, Elena. Don't let him dim your light." It was her dad's old saying, the one he'd repeat after long days laying bricks. Back before cancer took him when she was 15. Luca, meanwhile, nursed his meals slow, watching her handle a rowdy table of construction workers who'd had one too many modelos. One guy was griping loud about his order. "This ain't spicy enough. What, you skimping on the jalapenos?" Elena didn't flinch. She leaned in, calm as ever. "Senor, that's our mild version. Family recipe from my mom's side. But if you want real heat, I can hook you up with the habanero salsa we keep in the back. It's got that Puebla kick. Burns like Chicago wind in winter." The guy laughed it off, and she swapped his plate without missing a beat, throwing in a side of fresh guac on the house. Luca saw it all. Her poise, that quiet strength that turned a potential blow-up into a win. It reminded him of his own mom back in the day, holding the family together while his dad navigated the streets. When she swung by to refill his water, he couldn't help but say, "You handled that like a pro. Not many could." Elena paused, her guard up but cracking a tiny smile. "Grew up in a house where you learn quick. My dad always said, 'Kill him with kindness, kiddo.' Works better than yelling most days." They chatted a bit more as the night quieted, light stuff at first, like her recommending the Pozole special because it reminded her of holidays back home. But Luca steered it deeper, asking about her Spanish, how it flowed so easy. "My mom's from Mexico City, insisted we speak it at home. Dad was pure Illinois farm boy, but he picked it up for her. Said it kept our family rooted." Luca nodded, feeling that tug again. "Sounds like my ma, Sicilian through and through, but America's worn her down. You talking to her last week? That was gold. She hasn't stopped raving." Elena's cheeks warmed, but she kept her distance, wiping down a table nearby. Inside, she was torn. Sympathy for Isabella, this lonely woman who'd given up so much, clashing with the fear Luca's world sparked. What if getting close meant trouble? She'd heard stories from neighbors about the outfit, protection rackets shaking down taquerias, whispers of hits in alleyways. But Luca seemed different. Gentle with his mom, respectful. It gnawed at her. That inner fight, stay safe or see the human side. A couple nights later, Luca showed up again, this time on a Friday when the place was packed with families celebrating payday. Mariachi tunes blasting from the jukebox. Elena was in the zone, balancing trays like a pro. But the gossip ramped up. Maria pulled her aside in the kitchen, voice low and urgent. Elena, chica, I saw him looking at you. Don't be stupid. Guys like Santoro, they charm you. Then boom, you're in over your head. Remember my cousin Raul? Got mixed up with that crowd, ended up doing time for nothing. Elena's chest tightened. That coil of loneliness hitting hard. She was already isolated. No family left nearby. Just her dreams and this job. I know, Maria, I'm not dumb. But his mom's sweet. Reminds me of Abuelita. I'm just being nice. It was a tense exchange. Maria's eyes full of worry. Elena's defiant but cracking. She pushed through, serving Luca with that same calm. But when he asked about her weekend plans, casual, like, got any big Chicago adventures lined up? She let slip a bit. Nah, just working, saving up for something big. New York's calling, maybe. Luca's ears perked. He caught the hesitation, the way her eyes lit up then dimmed. New York? What's the draw? She hesitated, then shrugged. Dance stuff. Scholarships for folklorico, those traditional Mexican dances. Been practicing forever. It was a small reveal, but to Luca, it clicked. That rhythm in her step. The fire. He filed it away, intrigued, while Elena kicked herself for sharing. Why him? But in that moment, alone in the crowd, her keen kung shone through, pushing past the whispers, the fears, holding onto her dream like a lifeline. By the end of the week, Luca was hooked, telling himself it was just curiosity. But really, it was her strength that got him. Elena, though, she lay awake nights, staring at the ceiling, feeling that isolation deepen, the weight of judgments from coworkers, the pull of sympathy for Isabella, the spark she felt but denied. Girl, you're playing with fire, she'd mutter, echoing Maria's words. But deep down, she knew her quiet resilience was her power. She'd overcome losing her dad, the moves across states, the doubters who said a barrio girl couldn't make it in dance. Little surprises like that kept her going, like when a regular customer, this old Mexican grandpa who'd seen her handle the rowdy table, slipped her an extra 20 with a wink. You got heart, mija. Don't let nobody tell you different. It was unexpected, that faith from a stranger, reminding her she wasn't as alone as she felt. And Luca, he was already planning his next visit, that dark world of his feeling a tad brighter. Man, life in Chicago throws curveballs, doesn't it? One minute you're just serving tables, the next, everything's shifting under your feet. Over the next couple weeks, that spark between Luca and Elena didn't fizzle. If anything, it started simmering like a pot of mole left on low heat, building flavors you didn't see coming. Luca kept showing up at El Jardín, not every night, but often enough that Maria's side, eye turned into full, on lectures in the kitchen. Elena, you're smarter than this, playing nice with a Santoro. That's like dancing with the devil at a quinceañera. Looks fun till the music stops. Elena would nod, wiping down counters. But inside she was a whirlwind. She told herself it was just business. Luca tipped like he was trying to buy goodwill, and his mom's stories about Sicily tugged at her heartstrings, reminding her of her own family's border, crossing tales. But there was more. Those brief chats at his table, where he'd ask about her day with genuine interest, made her feel seen in a way she hadn't since her dad passed. Rough shift? He'd say one night, noticing her limp from hours on her feet. Yeah, but hey, that's Chicago hustle. No pain, no gain, right? She'd reply, borrowing her dad's old motto. Luca's laugh was low, real, not the polished charm she expected from a guy in his line of work. Then came the invite that shifted everything. It was a rainy Thursday, the kind where the L train rumbles overhead like thunder, and Luca waited till closing to pull her aside. Elena's birthday's coming up. My ma's. I want to do something special at my place in Wicker Park. No caterers, they always mess up the authentic stuff. Would you cook? Mexican spread, whatever you think she'd love. I'll pay top dollar. Cover ingredients. The works. Elena froze, notepad still in hand. Part of her screamed no. Getting deeper into his world? Bad idea. But the money? That could fast track her dance scholarship fund. Maybe even cover a new pair of folklorico shoes she'd been eyeing at that shop on 18th Street. And honestly, the passion for cooking ran deep. Her abuelita's recipes weren't just food. They were stories. Tamales wrapped in corn husks like gifts from the past, evoking Day of the Dead altars her family built every November in their cramped backyard, complete with marigolds and photos of lost loved ones. "Okay," she said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. "But just this once. For Isabella." Luca's eyes lit up. That mix of relief and something warmer. "You won't regret it. She'll be over the moon." The planning session started innocent enough. Elena swinging by Luca's brownstone after her shift, a sleek place with exposed brick and views of the hipster bars below, but guarded like a fortress with cameras and a doorman who nodded like he knew too much. They'd sit in his kitchen, Isabella joining via video call at first, chatting in Spanish about favorites, chiles and nogada for that patriotic red-white-green vibe, or pozole rojo thick with hominy and pork, the kind her family simmered for hours during posadas at Christmas. Elena dove in, her chef hat on, sketching menus, sourcing chiles from the Maxwell Street Market, where vendors hawked everything from fresh produce to knockoff jerseys. But as the days ticked by, it got personal. One night, chopping onions with Luca handing her knives, she opened up about her dream. "Dance isn't just a hobby, it's my escape. Folklorico? It's like telling history with your body, stomping out the beats of revolutions and fiestas. I've got an audition tape due for this program in New York. If I nail it, it's scholarships. Maybe even touring." Luca listened, leaning on the counter, his usual guarded vibe cracking. "That's real. Elena. My dad always said chase what sets your soul on fire before life snuffs it out." His voice dipped, hinting at the darkness. She caught the scar on his knuckle, probably from some fight he wouldn't name. Luca, for his part, was wrestling demons he hadn't faced in years, sharing bits of his past, how his family came over in the 70s, his dad starting legit with a deli before getting pulled into the outfit for protection. It felt risky, like handing her a loaded gun. It's not all glamour, you know, the power. It comes with chains. Elena nodded, but her fear bubbled up. What if this was a trap? Him reeling her in. Yet the hope flickered. Maybe he was more than the rumors. A guy loyal to his mom, trying to carve light in the shadows. Then came the tension spike. Victor. Luca's right, hand guy. This burly ex, Marine type with tattoos peeking from his collar. Cornered him one evening in the study while Elena prepped downstairs. "Boss, you're getting sloppy. That girl's in your house now? She's a liability, pretty face from the barrio. No connections. One wrong move. And rivals use her as bait." Luca's jaw clenched, that cold Mafia resolve kicking in. "She's off. Limits. Victor, this ain't about business." But Victor pressed, his motives mixed. Loyalty to the crew. Sure, but a dash of jealousy. Seeing Luca soften. "Just saying. She's a target. You gonna protect her forever?" It gnawed at Luca, that Zhang Shay between his world and this pull toward her light. He brushed it off, but the words lingered like smoke. Elena felt the shadows too. One prep night. She stepped out for air on the balcony and overheard Luca on a call in the alley below. Hushed, tense. Something about handling that shipment from the docks and make sure it's clean. Her blood ran cold. Was this the Mafia side peeking through? She slipped back inside, heart racing, but didn't confront him. Instead, she channeled it into the food, perfecting a batch of empanadas that made Isabella tear up on the test run. "Mija, this is like my nonna's arancini, but with that Mexican soul. The spice, the heart." Elena hugged her through the screen, hope winning out for a moment. But the fear? It coiled tighter, especially when Victor eyed her like she was an intruder, his cold stare saying, "You don't belong." She pushed through, that Kien Kung from years of proving herself, as the kid who aced school despite working weekends, or the dancer who practiced till her feet blistered in empty gyms. The birthday dinner loomed, and tensions peaked during the final prep. Luca helped her unload groceries, fresh cilantro from a Pilsen farm stand, avocados ripe as summer, and their hands brushed, sparking that undeniable attraction. "You nervous?" he asked, voice low. Elena met his eyes, fear and hope warring. "A little, but cooking? It's my zone. Reminds me of Thanksgivings with Dad. He'd mash potatoes while Mom did tamales, blending our worlds." Luca shared a rare vulnerability. "Lost my dad young too. Makes you grow up fast." It was a bridge. But then Victor interrupted, pulling Luca aside with an urgent call glare. Elena caught snippets. That crew from the south side sniffing around. And her stomach dropped. Was she walking into danger? Yet, in a small twist that caught her off guard. The doorman, this quiet older guy named Raul, a Cuban immigrant who'd worked the building for years, slipped her a note as she left. "You're good for him, kid. Seen a lot of bosses. This one's got hard under the tough guy act." It was unexpected faith from a stranger, echoing her dad's spirit, giving her just enough hope to keep going. Luca, back in his study after paced, torn between protecting his empire and this growing need to let her in. Man, relationships in a city like Chicago, they're never simple. Layers of trust, fear, and that stubborn hope that maybe, just maybe, two worlds can collide without breaking. The night before the party, Elena lay in bed, replaying it all. The laughs over recipes, Luca's rare smiles, Victor's warnings like ice. She feared the tom toy of his life, the violence she'd only heard in neighborhood whispers, like those drive-bys that shut down streets during gang flare-ups. But the hope? It whispered of possibility, of a guy who saw her dreams as valid, not silly. Luca, staring out his window at the glittering skyline, felt the same pull, attraction deepening into something real, but shadowed by responsibility. "What am I doing?" he'd mutter, echoing doubts from his dad's old letters hidden in a drawer, warnings about love in their line of work. It was that American grit, though the kind forged in melting pot cities like this, pushing them forward. Little did they know, the dinner would test it all. That tension building like storm clouds over Lake Michigan, ready to burst. The night of Isabella's birthday at Luca's Wicker Park brownstone was electric, like a Chicago summer night when the air hums with possibility and trouble all at once. The dining room glowed with string lights Elena had insisted on hanging, a nod to the street festivals in Little Village, where vendors sold elotes under similar twinkles during Fiesta del Sol. 12 guests, a mix of Isabella's church friends and Luca's carefully vetted family, filled the space with chatter, their voices blending with the low strum of a mariachi playlist Elena had curated. The table was a feast for the eyes, platters of chiles en nogada, their red pomegranate seeds and green cilantro popping against creamy walnut sauce, tamales steaming in corn husks, and a mole poblano so rich it smelled like every holiday Elena's family had ever celebrated. Isabella, in a deep burgundy dress that made her look regal despite her years, sat at the head, her eyes already misty as she inhaled the aromas. Luca watched from the side, his heart doing that tight thing again, seeing his mom so alive, so connected to something he couldn't give her, not Sicily, but close enough. Elena moved like she owned the room, not just a waitress now, but a maestro, explaining each dish with a passion that hushed the table. "This mole, it's my abuelita's recipe from Puebla. Takes 3 days to get the chiles just right. It's like a love letter to home." Her voice carried that fire, and Luca caught every guest hanging on her words, even his grizzled Uncle Tony, who usually scoffed at anything not Italian. But the real show wasn't the food. It was Elena herself, and it came out of nowhere. After dinner, as the guests sipped micheladas and swapped stories about old Chicago winters, Isabella clapped her hands, her face glowing. "Elena, mija, you've given me Mexico tonight, but Luca says you dance. See? Show us something from your heart." Elena froze, her cheeks flushing, caught off guard. She'd mentioned her folklorico dreams to Luca in passing, but performing here, in front of strangers, in front of him, her instinct was to dodge. "Oh, no, Signora Isabella, I didn't bring my shoes." But Isabella's pleading eyes, so full of hope, cracked her resolve. "Okay, just a little something," she said, her voice shaky, but her spine straight. She queued up a track on her phone, a vibrant jarabe tapatio, the kind of dance that lit up Mexican Independence Day parades along 26th Street, and slipped off her apron, revealing a simple black dress she'd worn for serving. No costume, no stage, just her. And then she moved. It was like the room held its breath. Elena's feet stomped a rhythm that echoed through the hardwood floor, her arms slicing the air with precision, her body weaving stories of ranchos and revolutions. Each step was defiance, every spin a declaration. This wasn't just dance. It was her soul laid bare. Luca's jaw dropped. He'd seen her grace at El Jardín, but this was power, raw and unapologetic, the kind of talent that could headline festivals from Pilsen to Lincoln Park. The guests were stunned, clapping along, some wiping tears as the music swelled. Even Victor, Luca's right hand, standing in the corner with his usual scowl, looked like he'd been slapped with awe. Elena ended with a flourish, her breath heavy, eyes blazing, and the room erupted. Isabella was on her feet, hugging her tight. "Mija, you're a star, like the dancers I saw in Mexico years ago, before I came here." But the high didn't last. Victor pulled Luca into the kitchen, his voice low and sharp like a blade. "Boss, this is a problem. She's stealing the show, making you look soft. Word's out. You're distracted. And the Southside crew's circling. They'll use her, Luca. She's a nobody from the barrio. No protection. You want her dragged into our mess?" Luca's blood ran hot, his fist clenching. "Watch your mouth, Victor. She's not a nobody, and no one's touching her." The tension crackled, and Elena, clearing plates nearby, caught the tail end, enough to know Victor saw her as a liability. Her heart sank, that old sting of being underestimated hitting hard, like when her high school counselor told her college wasn't for girls like her. But she didn't crumble. She squared her shoulders, walked back to the dining room, and kept serving, her smile tight but unbroken. Inside, though, she was a storm. Pride from the dance, fear from Victor's words, and something deeper, a pull toward Luca that scared her most of all. She'd always been the underdog, the mixed kid who didn't fit. But this felt like dancing on a tightrope. Then came the bombshell. As the night wound down, Elena's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her dance instructor at the community center, a tough old Mexican lady who'd been her mentor since she was a kid. "Got news! You're in. Full scholarship to a folklorico program in LA. Audition tape was a hit. Gotta move in a month." Elena's breath caught, her hands trembling as she slipped the phone back. LA? That was her dream. The big leagues, a shot at performing with troupes that toured the world, blending her heritage with the stage. But it meant leaving Chicago, leaving Isabella's warmth, leaving Luca. She glanced at him across the room, laughing with his mom, and her chest ached. How could she want this so bad and still feel torn? The guests were raving now, asking where Luca found this incredible chef, oblivious to the dance, to her real gift. Victor, though, wasn't done. He cornered her near the dessert table, his voice a low growl. "You think you're slick, charming the boss? Girls like you don't last in his world. Walk away or you'll regret it." It was a gut punch, his words dripping with that cold, elitist disdain she'd heard too often, from coworkers who thought she was just a waitress, from dance judges who dismissed her for not looking Mexican enough. Elena's eyes narrowed, her voice steady despite the shake inside. "I'm here for Isabella, not your boss, and I don't scare easy, so back off." Victor's face went tight, like he hadn't expected pushback, and he stormed off, leaving her reeling but standing tall. Luca caught the exchange from the corner of his eye, his gut twisting. Victor's loyalty was ironclad. But this was personal. And it pissed him off. He'd spent years building walls around his heart, after his dad's death, after betrayals in the outfit. But Elena was breaking them down, and it terrified him. He wanted to protect her, not just from his world, but from the doubts eating at her. When the guests left, Isabella pulled Elena aside, her hands warm on hers. "Mija, you gave me my heart back tonight. Those flavors, that dance. It's like I was young again." Her eyes flicked to Luca, a knowing glint. "And my son, he sees you, not just the girl serving tables. Don't let fear stop you." Elena swallowed hard, the weight of the scholarship news pressing down. She nodded, unable to speak, her mind racing, pride in her triumph, fear of what Luca's world could do, and a stubborn hope that maybe, just maybe, she could have both. The next day, word spread in Little Village. A neighbor who'd been at the party told everyone at the taqueria how Elena from El Jardín danced like a pro, shut down the haters. People started looking at her differently, not just the barrio girl, but someone with fire. Even Maria, her skeptical co-worker, softened, muttering, "Didn't know you had that in you, chica." It was a shift, small but real, like the community waking up to her worth. Luca, meanwhile, sat in his office, staring at a photo of his dad's old deli, wrestling with his own fallout. Victor's warning wasn't just hot air. His crew was whispering about his distraction, and a rival crew had tagged a warning on a warehouse wall in back of the yards, a subtle threat tied to his name. He knew protecting Elena meant making hard calls, maybe even stepping back. But every time he thought of her dance, her defiance, he felt that pull stronger. And Elena? She tucked the scholarship letter into her coffee can of savings. Her heart split. LA was her shot. But Chicago, with its messy, vibrant heart, was home. A kid from the block. This scrappy teen who'd seen her dance at the community center stopped her on the street with a grin. "Yo, Elena, you're gonna make it big. I know it. Don't let nobody hold you back." It was a spark, a reminder of her dad's words. "Keep shining, kiddo." And it fueled her to face whatever came next. Man, life in this city, it's like a dance itself. Every step a risk. Every turn a chance to fall or soar. The fallout from Isabella's birthday hit like a Chicago windstorm, sharp, cold, and impossible to ignore. Elena's dance had lit up the room. Her scholarship news was a rocket to her dreams. But Victor's warning hung over Luca like a neon sign flashing trouble. He was used to threats. The outfit life meant dodging knives, literal and figurative, from crews in neighborhoods like Englewood or back of the yards. But this was different. Elena wasn't just a target. She was a crack in his armor. And Victor's words about her being a nobody from the barrio burned deep. Luca sat in his office the next day, a converted loft above a shuttered meatpacking plant in the West Loop, staring at a grainy photo of his dad from the 80s, back when the family business was just a deli with dreams of legit money. He'd lost that innocence long ago. But Elena? She was stirring something he thought was dead, a need to be more than the Santoro name. His phone buzzed with a text from Victor. "Southside crew hit our warehouse, spray-painted Santoro soft. We need to retaliate." Luca's jaw tightened. Soft? Because he cared about someone? He fired back. "Handle it quiet. No blood." But doubt gnawed at him. Was he losing his edge? Or was this a chance to redefine what power meant? Elena, meanwhile, was back at El Jardín, scrubbing tables after a lunch rush that left her sneakers sticky with spilled horchata. Her mind was a mess, pride from the party, fear from Victor's venom, that scholarship letter burning a hole in her pocket. She'd slipped it into her coffee can of savings. But every time she thought of LA, her heart tugged back to Chicago, to Isabella's warm hugs, to Luca's quiet intensity. Maria, her coworker, noticed her distraction and pulled her into the kitchen, voice low but softer than before. "Chica, I heard about your dance. People are talking. You got something special, but that Santoro guy?" He's trouble, and you're too good for that. Elena forced a smile, her throat tight. I know, Maria. I'm not falling for him. I'm just figuring it out. But she was lying to herself. She'd felt it last night. The way Luca's eyes followed her dance. Not with lust, but with awe. Like he saw her soul. It scared her. Not just his world, but how much she wanted to believe he was more than the rumors. Growing up, she'd heard her dad's stories about Chicago's underbelly, gangs shaking down his construction crew, leaving him bruised but never broken. Stay sharp, mija, he'd say, but don't let fear steal your heart. She was trying, but Victor's cold stare replayed in her mind, that smug, girls like you don't last, cutting deeper than she'd admit. The real shift came a few nights later, when Luca showed up at the restaurant unannounced. His usual sharp suit traded for a plain hoodie, blending in like any guy grabbing a late-night taco. Elena caught his eye across the crowded dining room, her pulse spiking. He waited till her break, then slipped her a note. Meet me out back. Need to talk. Against every instinct, screaming to stay safe, she went, finding him by the alley dumpster where the air smelled of grease and city grit. Elena, he started, voice low. I owe you an apology. Victor was out of line, and I should have shut him down sooner. She crossed her arms, her guard up. He called me a liability, Luca. Said I'd regret being around you. Is he right? Luca's face hardened, but not at her, at the truth. He's scared, not of you, but of what you mean. I'm not the same guy when you're around, and that spooks him. But I'm not letting anyone hurt you. Not him, not my enemies. His honesty hit her hard, peeling back layers of fear to reveal something raw. A man caught between loyalty to his world and a pull toward hers. She wanted to believe him, but then he dropped the bomb. There's a crew out there watching us. Saw them tailing you after the party. I've got my guys on it, but you need to know this life, it's messy. Elena's stomach dropped, her mind flashing to her mom's warnings about men like Luca. Charming, dangerous, the kind who'd burn your dreams to ash. But then came the twist, the kind of moment that makes you rethink everything. Raul, the doorman from Luca's building, that quiet Cuban guy who'd slipped her a note before, appeared from the shadows, his face lined with years of seeing too much. Miss Elena, I wasn't eavesdropping, but I heard enough. Luca's right, he's got your back. I've watched bosses come and go. This one's different. He's trying to keep you safe, even if it costs him. Raul's voice was steady, his eyes carrying the weight of someone who'd fled Havana decades ago, leaving everything for a new life. It was a Chicago thing, that unspoken bond between immigrants, the ones who hustled through the cracks of the city. Elena's breath caught. Raul's faith, unasked for, felt like her dad's old encouragement, a lifeline in the storm. Isabella, too, was wrestling with her own regrets. She called Elena the next day, her voice thick over the phone. Mija, I heard what happened at the party. Victor's nonsense. I should have spoken up, told him to back off. I've been quiet too long, letting Luca carry this family alone. Elena heard the pain, the guilt of a mother who'd watched her son inherit a life she never wanted for him. Señora, it's not your fault. You gave me a chance. And that means everything. Isabella's sigh was heavy. You're special, Elena. Not just your food, your dance. You remind me of who I was before America, before I lost my way. It was a confession, raw and real, tying them closer. Isabella's words spread through Little Village. Too, her church group started buzzing about the girl who danced like an angel. And suddenly, El Jardín was packed with locals wanting to see Elena, not just for tacos, but for her. The community, so quick to judge her as that waitress, was waking up, seeing her as one of their own, someone who carried their culture with pride. Elena used the party money to buy new dance shoes, vibrant red ones with heels that clicked like a heartbeat, perfect for her audition tape. She practiced harder, pouring her confusion into every step, the stomps echoing her defiance against Victor's disdain, against the world that saw her as small. Luca, meanwhile, took action. He doubled security around El Jardín, quietly, so Elena wouldn't notice, and had a sit down with Victor. "You're loyal, but you're wrong about her," he said, voice like steel. "She's not a weakness, she's why I'm still human." "Push her again, and you're out." Victor's face went pale, his loyalty shaken, but his pride stung. He nodded, but Luca saw the flicker of resentment, a crack in the crew that could spell trouble. Luca's heart was split. Protecting Elena meant risking his empire, but letting her go? That felt like losing the only light he'd found in years. Then came the unexpected, a small but seismic revelation. Elena, digging through old family photos for inspiration for her dance, found a letter tucked in her mom's keepsake box. It was from her abuelita, written years ago, mentioning a distant cousin in Chicago tied to a Mexican syndicate in the 90s, a shadowy figure who'd crossed paths with the outfit. It wasn't much, just a name and a vague story of business gone sour, but it hit Elena like a freight train. Was her family's past tangled with Luca's world? She didn't tell him. Not yet. But it shifted something. Maybe she wasn't as far from his life as she thought. It fueled her resolve, a mix of pride and fear, to keep pushing for LA, for her dreams, but also to understand Luca, not just run from him. The city itself seemed to cheer her on. A mural popped up on a wall near 26th Street, a vibrant folklorico dancer that looked eerily like her, painted by a local artist who'd been at the party. "That's you, mija," an old vendor told her, grinning. "You're making us proud." It was Chicago's heartbeat, messy and fierce, reminding her she wasn't alone. Luca, staring at that mural on his drive home, felt it too. A city that judged hard but loved harder, pushing him to fight for something real, even if it meant rewriting his own rules. Elena's first week in Los Angeles felt like stepping onto a different planet. The palm trees, the endless sprawl of strip malls, the way the sun hit the pavement like it was trying to cook you alive. She'd traded Chicago's gritty charm for a tiny studio apartment in East LA, a block from a taco truck that blasted cumbia late into the night, reminding her of Little Village, but with a different rhythm. The folklorico program was intense, 6 hours a day of rehearsals, her red dance shoes pounding the floor, sweat soaking her practice skirt as she nailed spins and stomps for a showcase that could land her a spot with a touring troupe. She was in her element, finally living her dad's mantra of "shine, mija, no matter what." But every night, alone on a mattress on the floor, she'd stare at her phone. Luca's last text glowing, "Proud of you. Call when you're settled." Her finger hovered over the call button, but fear stopped her. Fear of his world. Fear of losing her focus. Fear of admitting she missed him. Chicago felt a million miles away, but the ache in her chest was as real as the L train's rumble. She'd lie there, replaying their last moment, him at O'Hare, slipping her a small silver charm shaped like a dancer, saying, "For luck. You're gonna kill it." It was tucked in her pocket now, a quiet anchor to a life she wasn't sure she could keep. Back in Chicago, Luca was drowning in his own chaos. The South Side crew had escalated, slashed tires on one of his delivery vans. A clear message they smelled weakness. Victor was on his case, pushing for a show of force. "Boss, we hit back, or we're done. You're distracted, and they know it." Luca's temper flared, but he kept it cold, his voice like ice. "We play smart, not loud. You don't call the shots here." Inside, though, he was unraveling. He'd check his phone during late night meetings in smoky back rooms, hoping for Elena's name to pop up. Their video calls were lifelines, her face lighting up his screen, talking about dance drills or the LA street food she was obsessed with, like al pastor tacos from a truck that parked near her studio. "Better than El Jardín," he'd tease, and she'd laugh, that sound cutting through his stress like sunlight. But the distance gnawed at him. He'd pace his brownstone, the city's skyline glittering outside, and think of his dad's old letters. Love makes you weak, son, but it's the only thing worth fighting for. He wanted to be strong for Elena, but Victor's warnings weren't wrong. His enemies were circling, and her name had come up in whispers, a photo of her at the birthday party circulating among the wrong people. Luca doubled her protection from afar, paying a local guy in LA to keep an eye on her block. But he didn't tell her. No need to scare her when she was chasing her dream. Elena felt the weight, even if she didn't know the details. Her new dance crew was a mix of dreamers like her, kids from barrios, suburbs, even a few from Mexico. But the whispers followed her. One girl, a sharp-tongued dancer from Boyle Heights named Carla, pulled her aside after practice. Heard you're tied to some Chicago mob guy. That true? Girl, you don't need that kind of baggage in this game. Elena's stomach twisted, that old sting of being judged hitting hard, like when kids in high school called her half and half for her mixed roots. He's just a friend, she snapped, but Carla's raised eyebrow said she wasn't buying it. Elena pushed through, channeling her frustration into her dance, her heels slamming the floor like she could stomp out the doubts. But late at night, on those calls with Luca, she'd let slip her fears. People here talk, Luca. They think I'm some naive girl caught up in your world. I worked too hard for this. Luca's face softened on the screen, but his eyes were haunted. I know, Elena. I'm trying to keep you out of it. Just focus on your dance. You're killing it, right? She nodded, but the loneliness crept in, a hollow ache like the one she felt after her dad's funeral, when her mom's sobs echoed through their old house in Medford. Then came the scare that shook them both. Elena was walking home from rehearsal one night, the LA streets buzzing with lowriders and neon signs, when she noticed a car tailing her, a black SUV, too sleek for her neighborhood. Her heart raced, her mind flashing to Victor's warnings, to the stories of gang trouble her mom used to tell about Chicago's South Side. She ducked into a bodega, pretending to browse, and texted Luca, "Something's off, car following me." Within minutes, he called, his voice tight but calm. "Stay put. My guy's nearby. He'll check it out. You're safe. Elena, I swear." Her local watcher, a quiet Chicano guy named Miguel, who'd introduced himself as a friend of a friend, showed up, scanned the street, and walked her home. The SUV was gone, but the fear lingered. Luca didn't sleep that night, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. He called in favors, got word the Southside crew had sent a scout to LA, testing his reach. It was a power play. And Elena was caught in the crosshairs. He wanted to fly out, pull her back to Chicago. But he knew that'd clip her wings, the one thing he couldn't do. Elena, shaken but stubborn, threw herself into her first big showcase. It was a community event at a plaza in East LA, the kind of place where families gathered for tamales and kids ran around with paletas, a slice of home that felt like Little Village's block parties. She took the stage in a vibrant folklorico skirt, red and green ribbons flying, her steps fierce and precise, telling stories of resilience through every spin. The crowd roared, her instructor beaming, and for those minutes, she was untouchable. Not the barrio girl, not Luca's liability, but a force. Backstage, she checked her phone to find a video message from Isabella. "Mija, you're a star. I wish I could have seen it in person. Luca's so proud." It broke her, that warmth from a woman who felt like family. And she cried alone in the dressing room, the loneliness hitting harder than ever. She texted Luca, "I did it, but I miss you." His reply came fast. "You're my hero. I'm here. Always." It was a tether, fragile but real, across the miles. The twist came from an unexpected corner. Miguel, her watcher, turned out to be more than just Luca's hired help. Over coffee one morning, he shared his story. A former gang kid from Compton who turned his life around through community theater, now working security to fund his own dreams. "Luca's not like the others," he told her, stirring his café con leche. He paid for my sister's chemo last year, no questions asked. He's got your back, Elena, but you gotta decide what you want. It was a Chicago-LA connection. That gritty belief in second chances that defined both cities. Elena felt it. A spark of trust. A reminder of her dad's faith in people despite the odds. She started opening up to Luca more, sharing stories of rehearsals, of the old Mexican lady who sold her tamales after practice, of the LA skyline that never felt like home, Luca fighting his own battles, a tense standoff with the Southside crew that ended in a shaky truce, clung to her voice, her stories grounding him when the darkness closed in. Chicago and LA, two cities built on hustle and heart, were pulling them apart, but also binding them tighter, each call a lifeline, each moment a test of whether love could outlast the distance and the danger. Luca's decision to fly to LA hit him like a bolt of lightning, the kind that cracks open a Chicago sky during a summer storm. He'd been pacing his brownstone for days, the weight of the Southside crew's threats, and Victor's nagging about losing focus, pressing down like humidity before a downpour. But Elena's text after her showcase, "I did it, but I miss you," broke something in him. He wasn't just the Santoro heir anymore, the guy who ran deals from dive bars in Pilsen to warehouses in Cicero. He was a man who saw a future in her eyes, in the way she danced like she was carrying her ancestors' stories. So he made the call, one that would have made his dad roll in his grave. He started pulling strings to shift the family business towards something legit, real estate, maybe restaurants, anything to keep Elena out of the crosshairs. He booked a red-eye to LA, telling Victor only after the ticket was bought. "I'm going for her," he said, voice hard. "You don't like it. Find another boss." Victor's face went tight, that mix of loyalty and resentment flashing. But he nodded. Luca knew the risk. His crew was already whispering, and a rival named Rico from the South Side was circling, smelling blood. But for once, Luca didn't care about the game. He cared about her. Elena was in the middle of a rehearsal when Luca landed, her folklorico troupe prepping for a big festival at Griffith Park. The kind of event where LA's Mexican-American community turned out in droves, mariachi bands and food trucks filling the air with music and spice. She was mid-spin, her red skirt flaring like a flame, when her instructor waved her over. "Someone's here for you." Mija looked serious. Elena's heart skipped, half expecting trouble after that SUV scare. But when she saw Luca in the doorway, his hoodie swapped for a crisp button, down, her breath caught. He looked out of place among the dance studio's mirrors and worn wooden floors, but his eyes locked on hers with that intensity that made her feel like the only person in the world. "What are you doing here?" she asked, wiping sweat from her brow, her voice a mix of shock and something softer. "Couldn't stay away," he said, stepping closer, his Chicago accent thick. "You're chasing your dream out here, and I'm not letting mine slip away back home." It was a confession, raw and real, and Elena felt her walls crack, fear of his world clashing with the warmth of his choice to cross the country for her. They grabbed coffee at a nearby diner, a classic LA spot with neon signs and vinyl booths, the kind where aspiring actors scribbled scripts on napkins between shifts. Over greasy tacos and too strong coffee, Luca laid it bare. "I'm done with the old ways, Elena. I'm moving the business clean. No more backroom deals. No more blood. It's not easy, but I want a life where you don't have to look over your shoulder." She stared at him, her heart pounding. It sounded like a dream. But she knew Chicago streets. Her dad's stories of gangs never let go easy. "Luca, that's big talk. You sure you can walk away? Your crew, those enemies, they don't just let you out." He leaned forward, his hand brushing hers, the dancer charm still in her pocket like a talisman. "I'm not naive. It's a fight, but you're worth it. I saw you dance. Elena, you're not just surviving, you're shining. I want that for us." Her chest tightened, pride swelling but fear lingering. Could she trust this? Could she love someone whose past was a minefield? The tension spiked that night at the festival. Elena was set to perform, her troupe's biggest show yet, with hundreds gathered under the stars, the LA skyline glittering in the distance. Luca was in the crowd, blending in with a baseball cap. But trouble followed. Rico's crew had tracked him, and Elena spotted that same black SUV from weeks ago parked near the food trucks. Her pulse raced, but she didn't tell Luca. She didn't want to ruin the night. Instead, she channeled it into her performance, her feet stomping out a fierce zapateado, the rhythm a battle cry of resilience. The crowd roared, but backstage, chaos erupted. Rico's guys cornered Luca near a vendor tent, words heated, fists clenched. "You're going soft, Santoro," one sneered. "That dancer girl's got you weak." Luca stayed calm, his voice low. "Walk away, or you'll regret it." Elena, slipping off stage, saw it unfolding and acted fast. She grabbed Miguel, her watcher, who'd become a friend, and whispered, "We need to stop this." Miguel nodded, pulling a few local security guys, ex-gang members turned community leaders, to defuse the situation. Elena stepped in, her voice sharp but steady. "This is my night. My people, you want trouble? Take it somewhere else." Her defiance stunned Rico's crew, who backed off, outnumbered and outplayed. Luca's eyes met hers, a mix of shock and pride. She wasn't just a dancer. She was a force. Victor got the boot that week, a move Luca hadn't planned but couldn't avoid. Back in Chicago, he'd caught wind of Victor leaking info to Rico, betting against Luca's pivot to legit business. "You're out," Luca told him in a tense meet at a diner on Division Street, the kind where old Italians sipped espresso and read the Sun Times. Victor's face went red, his loyalty shattered. "You're throwing it all away for her," he spat, but Luca didn't flinch. "I'm building something better. You're either in or out." Victor walked, and the crew felt the ripple. Some stayed loyal, others wavered. But Luca was done playing the old game. Meanwhile, Isabella called Elena from Chicago, her voice warm but firm. "Mija, I'm going back to Sicily. This city's taken enough from me. But you and Luca, you're each other's home now. Don't let fear win." It was a push, a mother's wisdom, and it hit Elena deep, reminding her of her mom's courage crossing the border with nothing but hope. The final twist came when Elena dug deeper into that letter from her abuelita, the one hinting at a family tie to a Mexican syndicate. Over a late night call with her mom, she learned the truth. Her great-uncle had run with a crew in Chicago's 90s underworld, crossing paths with Luca's dad in a deal that went south. It wasn't just coincidence. Their worlds had brushed before, two families shaped by the same gritty city. Elena told Luca, her voice shaky but clear. "We're not so different, you and me. My family's got shadows too." It was a revelation, binding them closer, a shared understanding that their roots were tangled in ways neither expected. Luca stayed in LA a few more days, helping Elena settle, his presence a quiet promise. They walked the Venice Beach boardwalk, the ocean breeze cutting through the tension, and he said, "I'm all in, Elena, Chicago, LA, wherever. I'm with you." She nodded, her heart full, the fear still there but drowned out by pride. In her dance, in his fight, in their shared defiance of a world that tried to box them in. Chicago's hustle, LA's dreams. They were building something new, step by step, in a city that never stopped moving. A year later, Elena and Luca had traded the chaos of Chicago and the sprawl of LA for the pulsing, relentless energy of New York City, a place where dreams either soar or crash on the concrete. They'd settled in a cozy brownstone in Brooklyn, not far from the rumble of the subway and the glow of bodega signs, a neighborhood that felt like a mash, up of Little Village's warmth and Wicker Park's edge. Elena had opened her own dance studio, a small but vibrant space called Corazon en Movimiento, tucked above a Puerto Rican bakery that filled the air with the smell of fresh pan sobao. The studio was her heart poured out, wooden floors scuffed from folklorico classes, walls painted with murals of Mexican dancers and New York skylines, a nod to both her roots and her new home. She taught kids from the block, many of them first, Jen like her, their sneakers swapping for dance shoes as they learned the stomps and spins of Jarabe Tapatio or La Negra, watching them light up. Elena felt a pride so deep it almost hurt, like her dad was there, whispering, "Told you, mija, keep shining." Luca was her rock, handling the business side, permits, leases, even Sweet, talking the city for a community grant to fund free classes for low-income kids. He'd made good on his promise to go legit, pouring his outfit money into real estate and a couple of taquerias in the Bronx, named after Isabella's favorite dishes. It wasn't easy. The transition meant late nights crunching numbers, dodging old enemies who still held grudges, and proving to his crew that clean money didn't mean weak. But every time he saw Elena teaching, her skirt swirling like a storm, he knew it was worth it. Their wedding was the kind of New York moment you'd see in a movie. A small ceremony in Prospect Park, under a canopy of cherry blossoms in spring, with mariachi music blending with the distant hum of city traffic. Isabella flew in from Sicily, her face glowing with a peace she hadn't had in Chicago, wearing a bright shawl Elena had gifted her, woven by artisans in Puebla. She walked Elena down the aisle, a stand, in for the parents Elena had lost, her voice thick as she whispered, "You're my daughter now, mija." Luca's vows were simple, raw, the Chicago grit still in his voice. "I spent years running from shadows, Elena, but you're my light. Wherever you go, I'm home." Elena's eyes glistened, her own vows a mix of English and Spanish, promising to dance through life with him, no matter the rhythm. The reception was a block party vibe, tables spilling onto the sidewalk, neighbors bringing arroz con leche and Italian cookies, kids from the studio doing an impromptu performance that had everyone cheering. It was a middle finger to the world that tried to box them in. The Mafia stereotypes, the barrio judgments, the voices that said a dancer and a former boss couldn't rewrite their story. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Elena still carried the weight of her past. Those years of being underestimated, of hearing, "You're not enough" from teachers, coworkers, even dance judges who didn't get her mixed heritage. Opening the studio was her answer, a way to show kids like her, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mexican, Black, all the colors of New York, that their roots were their strength. One night, after a long class, a shy 13-year-old named Sophia stayed late, her eyes wide. "Miss Elena, my mom says I'm wasting time dancing when I could be working. But you made it, right? From nothing?" Elena knelt, handing her a pair of used dance shoes. "I had people tell me the same, kiddo. But every step you take out there, that's you proving them wrong. Keep going." It was a moment that echoed her own journey, a reminder of the scrappy teen in Chicago who'd believed in her, of Raoul, the doorman's quiet faith, of her dad's voice in her head. She wasn't just teaching dance. She was passing on resilience, the kind forged in cities like Chicago and New York, where every block tells a story of hustle and heart. Luca, too, faced his demons. The outfit's shadow lingered, a late night call from an old contact warning about Rico sniffing around, testing if Luca was truly out. He handled it quietly, meeting Rico in a neutral diner in Jersey, the kind with sticky tables and waitresses who called you hun. "I'm done, Rico," Luca said, his voice calm but steel. "You want to fight? You're fighting a ghost." Rico backed off, but the encounter left Luca shaken, wondering if he'd ever fully escape. Elena saw it in his eyes when he came home, the weight of a past he couldn't erase. She didn't push. Instead, she'd pull him into the studio, put on a slow cumbia, and dance with him, her laughter breaking through his gloom. "You're not that guy anymore, Luca," she'd say, her hands on his face. "You're mine, and we're building something real." It was their truth, A love that didn't erase the scars, but made them bearable. The community felt their impact. Elena's studio became a hub, not just for dance, but for stories. Kids sharing dreams over empanadas after class. Parents thanking her for giving their teens a purpose. A local artist painted a mural on the studio's exterior. Elena and Luca mid-dance, a symbol of two worlds blending. It sparked talk in Brooklyn, then beyond, with blogs calling it the heart of the barrio's comeback. The lesson was clear. You don't have to fit a mold to matter. Elena and Luca proved that, her as the mixed kid who danced her way to a stage, him as the Mafia heir who chose love over power. But late at night, as they lay in bed, the city humming outside, Elena would wonder about their future kids. Would they face the same judgments, the same whispers about their parents' pasts? She traced the dancer charm Luca gave her, now on a chain around her neck, and feel a quiet resolve. We'll teach them to fight, she'd whisper to Luca, who'd pull her close, like we did. It was a promise, a legacy of defiance and love, born from Chicago's streets, LA's dreams, and New York's grit. Man, life's a wild ride. But in a city like this, where every corner holds a story, they'd carved out one that'd echo for generations.